The Ghost and the Hedgehog. Under the big plum tree, Grandad sat in his wheelbarrow. I was going to leap and yell, but the last of the sun shone through his hair, and I saw how thin it was. "Grandad," I wanted to say, "we'd better go inside. It's going to get cold soon. You know about your chest," was what Granny always said. I opened my mouth, but somebody else was talking. High, fast, and squeaky. Granny and Grandad had described that voice hundreds of times. It squeaked a question. Grandad replied. I backed away silently till I came up against the bean row. Some pods hung down amongst the brown leaves, so the seeds would fall and there'd be young plants for next year. The leaves rustled dry. Not a red flower, not a single black and yellow bumblebee. All summer they'd fumble the flowers, too busy to take any notice of me. Grandad waved his hand, as if saying goodbye to someone. I tried to whistle, but my mouth wouldn't go the right way. Instead I ran down, kicking the red and yellow leaves under the cherry tree till they rattled and crackled. "Ah, so there you are." Grandad stood up, as the barrow banged onto its wheel. He wobbled a bit and put his hand on my shoulder. "You were talking to somebody." "I was." "Couldn't see anyone." "He was there, though." "Who?" "Ah, that'd be telling." "Go on." "Here, put this in the barrow." "It's huge." "Do you want a ride?" "Oh, it'd be too heavy for you, Grandad, me and the cabbage." Perhaps you would." "Can I push the barrow for you?" "Of course you can." Sometimes when I'm sleeping in the sun, I dream somebody's pushing me in my old wheelbarrow. "Granny?" "Nah, she'd tip me out." "What about Mr. Humdrum? Would he give you a ride?" "Funny you should ask that. I was just talking to him." "But I couldn't see anyone." "As large as life, talking fast in that high squeak of his." "I heard him, just like you said, high and fast and squeaky, and you said something back, so I crept away because I thought I was doing something wrong." "If you'd crept, you'd listened on purpose. That would be wrong." "But how could I hear Mr. Humdrum if he wasn't there?" "Maybe I was talking to a ghost in my sleep." "Ghost?" "Jack, this is where we dug our underground hut and made home brew. Plum tree was about your height then. Your granny made me fill in the dugout years ago, but old Humdrum's ghost haunts the place." "Oh, I don't like ghosts, Grandad. This one's just hanging round for a sniff of the old home brew we made 50 years ago. There's no harm in it." "Have you told Granny about Mr. Humdrum's ghost?" Grandad shook his head. "She'd say I'd been drinking home brew again." "Did Granny ever drink it?" "She was a terror for the stuff. We used to hear Granny and Mrs. Humdrum laughing and dancing up around the house. And old Humdrum would say, 'They've been at our home brew again.' We'd go up to the house, and they'd be sitting at the table, with a cup of tea, talking like ladies with their hats on, as if butter wouldn't melt in their mouths. But we kept account of the bottles, and somebody was pinching them." "Granny?" "Who else could it be?" "What about your hedgehog?" Never thought of the hedgehog. Of course, that's who it was, and all this time I've been blaming Granny." "Does your old hedgehog sing, Grandad?" "Like a blackbird. I've even seen him get up on his hind legs and dance. He calls himself Jack." "That's my name." So it is. It's your name too." "Fancy, the three of us." "Grandad, had we better go inside? Sun's gone down and it's getting cold. You know about your chest." "Hop in the barrow. I can manage you and the cabbage. We'll tell Granny it was the hedgehog who pinched our home brew." "Does she know you thought it was her and Mrs. Humdrum?" Grandad tipped the barrow, so I rolled out, holding the big cabbage. "Your grandmother would be furious." "I won't tell her." "You'd better not. Next time I see the ghost of old Humdrum, I'll tell him it was the hedgehog who pinched our home brew. He'll laugh at that." "Do ghosts laugh?" "His does. Let's get inside and light the fire for Granny. She notices the cold more and more. I'd tell her she isn't getting any younger, but she'd be so angry she wouldn't cook me any tea." "That's all right, Grandad. You could have some of mine."